Well, I'll say this. The good news is the polls have President Donald Trump's approval ratings skyrocketing after the Epstein hoax. The bad news is it's a CNN poll. So you take it. You got to take it for what it's worth. That's the thing. I was like, oh, that's an exciting news. That's a step up. That's a bright light at the end of the dark Epstein tunnel. But then I realized it was a CNN poll, and well, you know about those CNN polls. What's up? This is Mark Kaye. Saves the Republic. I gotta raise my chair up. I was just on Newsmax a moment ago with Bianca De La Garza, and I have to lower my chair because for whatever reason, I don't know, I just have to lower my chair so I can frame up in the screen. That doesn't matter. That's neither here nor there. You don't care about any of that. But you do care about this. You do care about this, that today we have really exciting news about. It's really interesting what this administration is doing, because we have Donald Trump, who is still battling many people in his own party, many people in his own base over Epstein. And then we have the DOJ and Pam Bondi, who are doing things to keep the story that Donald Trump wants to die kind of front and center. So I'm kind of thinking, which way are we going here? It's kind of, it's one of those where you keep shaking your head going, I'm not really sure I understand the game plan. But again, I'm not playing that game. I'm playing a totally different game. And the game I'm playing is getting you to subscribe to this channel so that you can get the news every single day, so you can get the truth, the entertainment, the information that you need and desire, the inspiration and the enlightenment that only comes from hanging out with people who are on the right side of history, the right side of the aisle, and who have your best interests at heart. And that's me. So make sure you hit subscribe on YouTube. We want to make sure our YouTube numbers have been kind of flat. We want to grow those, and our Rumble numbers, well, we've been kind of flat all over. We've been kind of flat all over the place. I don't know. It could be summertime. People traveling, people going to the beach or the pool. Maybe not as interested in the political landscape, but it is important. And there's a lot going on, and there's a lot we have to get to. A couple of big announcements. First of all, it is White House press conference day, and we're going to bring you the White House press conference here in just a minute because we love it. It's very informative. Caroline Leavitt sticking it to fake news media outlets. We love to see that. Second of all, there's this video going around. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's pretty hilarious. And the the video is about this guy from there's a company called what's it called? It's called Astronomer. It's called Astronomer. And the Astronomer is like, it's some kind of tech company that I don't really understand. I don't really know what happens with the tech stuff. It's like, it's not like, a tech company that you and I would use as individuals. It's one of those B2B tech companies where if you are a tech company and you need this massive technological thing, again, I don't even know what it is, but the CEO is a guy by the name of Andy Byron. And Andy Byron was at a Coldplay concert with the head of HR, not his wife, the head of HR. And they were, having fun, getting close. And the kiss cam cuts to them. And immediately, what's his name? Chris Martin from Coldplay. Coldplay starts doing like a live commentary on their reaction to being caught on the kiss cam while they're clearly there without their spouses.
Yeah. Oh, look at these two. All right, come on. You're okay? Oh, what? Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy.
Yeah. And that is, and you can tell by the reaction of them and she turns her back. He dips out. This guy, I don't know why anyone would want to be with this guy, because as soon as the kiss cam lands on him and he realizes he's in trouble, he drops to the ground and plays dead and leaves this HR woman. She turns her back to the camera and leaves her in the lurch. The camera's stuck on her back and he's gone. He's nowhere to be seen. He fled the scene. And I thought to myself, that's not really the kind of guy that you want to have an affair with or really be married to at that point. But this thing apparently has blown up in his face. His wife, his wife was not the woman he was with. His wife was not the woman he was caught on the kiss cam with. It was the head of HR, which again, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the HR director the person you go to when you have these kinds of situations arise at the workplace? Like, isn't the CEO of the company dating the HR director? Isn't that kind of like a big, anyway, I don't even know.
Yeah. Oh, look at these two. All right, come on. You're okay? Oh, what? Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy.
Yeah. Also, again, and I'm not promoting or I'm not condoning, I'm not giving anybody any ideas or anything like that, but why would you go to a Coldplay concert and hug up on this person that you're having an affair with when you know It just doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, that's really the big story of the day. Every single day I search what's the biggest story of the day, and that was the biggest story today, was the astronomer CEO getting busted by Chris Martin's Coldplay on the Kiss Cam. Listen, if you want to send us a super chat, we would love it. We have a whole bunch of super chats. We're going to read them. We're going to read them as they come in. Our goal is 20 a day. And we're a little down on that goal. But anytime you send a super chat of $5 or more, we will shout out whatever your message is. We will share your message with all of our viewers. If you want to leave us a Rumble rant, we would love those too, because we are independent. And we do this, we do this for you and also with your support. And without your support, we're not able to do it with you anymore or for you anymore. So we definitely need any and all support we can get just by watching you're supporting the show. But any Rumble rants or super chats, any messages we can get out for you in exchange for cash, we'll be happy to do that as well. While we wait for Caroline Leavitt's press conference to begin, and it should begin shortly. Let me just make sure it hasn't begun yet. No, it hasn't begun yet. But as soon as it does begin, we will bring it to you live. We're very excited about it. I like to do the color commentary, much to the chagrin of a lot of people who always say, shut up, Mark, and let her speak. If you want to just watch her speak, you can go to that a multitude of other places. But if you'd like my live commentary, then, oh man, you are in for a treat for sure. But the Epstein thing, it's still, like I said, it's still kind of quizzical. One of the things that that's really been interesting is how this has divided, once again, not really divided, but how everybody in Donald Trump's camp, everybody in MAGA, how they've kind of come out on not different sides, but maybe different opinions of what's happening with the Epstein files and the President Donald Trump reaction to the Epstein files. And Megyn Kelly, who is on Sirius XM radio, she has the Megyn Kelly show. She said something the other day, which I think was very poignant, because she immediately, and I told you, I was at TPUSA when she was being interviewed by Charlie Kirk, and the crowd had a very visceral reaction to the Epstein files thing. They didn't like it at all. They wanted more information. They didn't like that it was being brushed aside. And Megyn Kelly went after Pam Bondi and said, this is all Pam Bondi's fault. Pam Bondi's got to go. Pam Bondi's not who we thought she was. Pam Bondi. And so now Megyn Kelly is out there, and she's kind of explaining why there's this what seems to be a rift in the conservative movement, or in MAGA, over the Epstein files, and how it's not really what people think it is.
Had Laura Ingraham go on her show on Fox News on last night, being like, "Oh well, after there was the pile-on at Charlie Kirk's Turning Point event, where there all this Republican infighting," and then kind of suggested she's moving on from Epstein. Okay, she was part of it. I like Laura, but she 100% stood up there and fanned this flame. I 100% talked about Pam Bondi and Epstein. I was on the receiving end of a Q&A. Charlie Kirk was asking those questions. This was not Megyn Kelly's choice for the questions of the evening. The interviewer sets the tone and chooses the subject, with which I was 100% fine and remain fine. But let's not pretend that, some of the president's most loyal advocates aren't very, very interested in Epstein. They are, all right? However, some in the media let their loyalty to the president trump their journalistic obligation. Now, Charlie, I don't think considers himself a journalist, and so he has no such obligation, and he's never made any secret of that. So kudos to him. Here's what he's saying, and I'll talk about it on the back end. Sot one.
Plenty was said this last weekend at our event about Epstein. Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. But let me just say this again. Everyone knows my opinion about the Epstein thing, the messaging fumble. I would love to see the DOJ move to unseal the grand jury testimony. I think that would be a big win. I would love to see that. And I'm going to trust my friends, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, my friend Pam Bondi, all these guys. I'm going to, Todd Blanche, I'm going to trust them to solve it. Balls in their court. I think that there was plenty of, let's say, speeches that were directed towards this topic this last weekend.
And there were, up and down the roster. It was the dominant topic of conversation amongst virtually all the speakers that I heard. So Charlie says he's going to trust his friends inside the administration. You heard Ben Shapiro say that on this show yesterday. I will state for the record, I have lots of friends inside the administration. I have nothing but respect and admiration for this president, but I'm in a different business. I am in the journalism business, and my position is you can trust, but you must verify. And I refuse to be the CNN of Trump 2.0.
And I don't know if that's a dig on Laura Ingraham or Ben Shapiro or both of them, but Megyn Kelly says, look, I'm in a different business than Laura Ingraham is. I'm in a different business than Ben Shapiro. I'm in the journalism business. And we trust our friends in the administration, but we also verify. I don't know how hard she was trying to dig on Laura Ingraham, but Laura Ingraham also spoke about Epstein in her defense to Byron Donalds, who's the front runner for, I think he's the only runner at the moment for governor of Florida in 2026. But Byron Donalds was on with Laura Ingraham, and she flat out asked him about it. Here's what he said.
Do you think the president will just at some point just say this, just to stop the speculation, put it all out there? But he seems to say people who are pushing for this aren't really supporters anymore, which I think there are a lot of his supporters who are just want the answers.
Well, I mean, I think potentially, but look, I would say look at it from the president's perspective. He is on a winning streak of delivering for the American people time after time after time again. You want to talk foreign policy, domestic policy, everything in between. He's doing his job. And so I think for everybody in the media circles and in the social media circles to be caught up in Epstein, he's like, wait a minute, but we're stepping on all the great things that we are doing.
Yeah, we're stepping on all, we're doing all these great things. We bombed the snot out of Iran. We destroyed their nuclear program. We got the economy kicking, even though that Jerome Powell's mucking it up with by not lowering the rate. We got all this great stuff going on. The border secure, where we've got the most massive deportation effort in American history. People feel safe again. The new golden age is upon us. Glory be to God in the highest. And it's an amazing time to be alive for sure. And Donald Trump is a transformative president again, even more so this second time around. The money that's coming in. I mean, we had the Crown Prince of Bahrain in here yesterday, bringing more money. $17 billion this guy brought in from Bahrain, which is like this big. The money, Donald Trump is milking every country, and he's building up a massive infrastructure, and he's making us technologically advanced and militarily a superpower, and that we're respected and all those great things. But this Epstein thing still looms large, and we know that because people keep talking about it. And CNN ran a poll on it. Now, yesterday we talked with our good buddy Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen, who runs the most, by the way, it's the most accurate poll in the entire world. And he said that Donald Trump's numbers had dropped since Iran and since Epstein. Listen to Harry Etten on CNN. Listen to him and his poll numbers that he found and reported on, surprisingly, yesterday.
And look, I think this one surprised me a bit because of all these complaints online going after Trump and the Epstein files. You might think his approval ratings were going down, Republicans. If anything, they're going up. Republicans who approve of Trump, look at our CNN poll. The prior one, 86%. The one out this week, 88% were Republicans. How about Quinnipiac? The prior poll, 87% approve of Republicans. This week out, 90% were Republicans. If anything, Donald Trump's approval rating has gone up since this whole Epstein saga started. He is at the apex, or close there too, in terms of his popularity with Republican voters, Epstein files, complaints, or not.
You just proved that not everything online is real.
Yes,
in real life.
Who knew?
Amazing.
Twitter and X are not reality.
By the way, I find it truly ironic that two folks on CNN are saying things online aren't real. This is the network that pushed the whole Russia collusion thing and the Hunter Biden laptop and the Steele dossier. And I mean, it's the fact that they're like, guess what, folks? Everything online's not real. Well, I've felt that way about CNN for a very long time. I digress. There's more.
Any reason that you can find that this hasn't taken hold and hurt him?
Yeah. I mean, on X, all you hear about is the Epstein files. But how about out in the real public? Republicans who said the top issue was Epstein case. The answer is one, and not 1%. One responded. This is a great little finding that Ariel Edwards-Levy, who of course is part of our polling unit, found. Just one single Republican said that the nation's top problem is in fact the Epstein case. Not much of a surprise that therefore Donald Trump's approval rating has not suffered with Republicans because of the Epstein case. Because the bottom line is most Americans say it's not high up on their priority list.
That is true. I would say most Americans agree that it's not the number one top priority. The number one top priority with most Americans is always the economy. The number one top priority with a lot of Americans is the border. The number one top priority with a lot of Americans is, taxes and where's our tax money going? And the military and feeling safe. Crime is a huge issue. And Epstein's not the number one issue. It is an issue for a lot of people. You know, the elitist class getting away with murder and other horrible things. They hate that. They don't like that. They don't want this two-tiered system of justice. They never did. They also want the Epstein files released as was promised to them. And that's why, no, it's not the number one issue, but it is an issue for a lot of people. I do like, however, that they highlighted it's not 1%. It's just one guy.
Republicans who said the top issue was Epstein case. The answer is one, and not 1%. One responded.
One dude. How many people believe that the Epstein case is the number one most important thing? 1%? No, one fella. One guy in a MAGA hat is sitting there answering our poll saying, gosh darn right, Epstein's the most important thing on the list. And that is great news for President Donald Trump. It's also, I think, maybe really bad news for Democrats, because the Democrats who are floundering around, I mean, man, I've never seen a party in such disarray. I've only ever seen two parties, really. I mean, I know there's libertarians, but they kind of keep their noses clean. I've never seen a party in this much disarray. The Democrats and the Republicans are polar opposite. And if you think that the Republicans, okay, maybe have an issue headed into the midterm because of the Epstein files, or maybe have an issue headed into the midterm because Megyn Kelly and Laura Ingraham are catfighting, you're no journalist. If you think that's a problem, it's nowhere near as big a problem as the Democrats have. Because this Epstein thing, they wanted to be the downfall of the Republicans. They wanted this to win back the House of Representatives. They wanted this issue to be the issue that would get them back into power. They wanted this issue to be the issue that would give them the Senate in 2026. This is something they thought they could ride. But apparently, if these CNN poll numbers are accurate, which I can't even believe I'm saying that, but if they are, then the Democrats have a big issue because this isn't taking hold. And if that one dude is the only Republican they could find who really cares about Epstein and the Epstein files, well, then the Democrats aren't going to be able to coalesce around that issue. But they're not really able to coalesce around anything anyway, except acting crazy. And earlier today in the Senate, Cory Booker from New Jersey, he's the guy that went on the 25-hour filibuster to nowhere. You know, he just started ranting about God. We're not even really sure what it was. We're not sure what he was angry about. We're not sure why he was ranting and raving, but he went on a 25-hour filibuster against Donald Trump. And basically, I think for just 25 hours, he was saying Donald Trump is bad. I think that's what it was. Donald Trump is bad. Well, today, he launched into another mini filibuster during the Senate Judiciary meeting because Chuck Grassley didn't call on him. So what did he do? He acted crazy. He hijacked the mic. He hijacked the meeting. He started talking and he wouldn't shut up. And his fellow Democrats, Mazie Hirono and the rest of the clown show, they got up and just left. They just got up and walked out. Look at this.
Why are you doing this? This is outrageous.
This is a kangaroo court. That's what we have here, Mr. Chairman.
This is wrong. To violate your own rules without going by the mandates of the parliamentarian. This is unbelievable. There's a way to do this. If you want to force this through, if you want to ram this through, there's a way to do it in accordance to the rules as spelled out by the parliamentarian.
And there they go. They're walking out. The Democrats all got up.
It is clear.
Cory Booker, by the way,
to achieve what you're trying to achieve.
Okay, so the Democrats get out and they throw a hissy fit and they all get up and they all just march right out there like, we're done with you guys. We're out. We're not standing for this. We're not even sitting for this. In fact, we're not sitting for this. We're standing for this. And then we're walking out for this. That's how the Democrats. So I guess they did stand for it. But they were gone. They were all out. They were like, we're going to take 5 and we're going to let you duke this out. But Cory Booker stays and he continued because that's all Cory Booker has. That's all he knows. All he knows is putting on a show, grabbing the spotlight, ranting and raving about nothing in particular. And he continues to just complain about Chuck Grassley, complain about the Republicans, complain about what's going on. And he does it. And Chuck Grassley's just like, you talk all you want, buddy. I'm just gonna vote. Listen to this. This is Cory Booker yelling and screaming over the live vote of Email Bovey for a district court judge.
The false urgency. It's one thing not to hear from whistleblowers. It's another thing not to hold another hearing, but to not even allow my colleagues to have their moment to speak against this justice. It's just wrong. And I know you know this. I know you know this. The only time this rule has ever been overturned by both parties was done when one minority was trying to pull some
It's kind of like Chuck Grassley just turned off his hearing aid, right? He's like, Chuck Grassley's like, is this guy still talking? All right, I'm going to turn off my hearing aid and we're going to go ahead with the vote. Let's go ahead with the vote. All in favor. Let's take a roll call vote for Emil Bovee to be the district court. I mean, that's my Chuck Grassley, by the way. I haven't practiced it, but he's got a pretty distinct voice. It's pretty easy to copy. But this is all the Democrats have. They have no power. They have no authority. They have no agenda. They have no ideas. They have no clue. They have no support for any of their items on their agenda, and they really don't have a way forward. Their leading candidate in New York is a pro-Palestinian socialist who wants to globalize the Intifada, which is just ridiculous and the dumbest thing I've ever heard. They've got AOC, who's flying around the country in a private jet with an 88-year-old man screaming and yelling about oligarchs while she's eating lobster rolls on the tarmac. You've got Jasmine Crockett, who just cusses. You've got LaMonica McIver, who literally tries to break into federal penitentiaries where ICE agents are being held. You've got more Democrats like Chris Van Hollen from Maryland flying down on your taxpayer dollars, by the way, to El Salvador to try to bring back criminal, illegal gang members. Donald Trump throws them out. He's like, no, we're going to go back and we're going to bring them back here to the United States of America. We're going to bring back the criminal, thug, alien gang members that you deported. Donald Trump said, okay, well, we're going to throw him in jail. You can bring him back, but he's not going back home to his wife, who he supposedly abuses. Twice she's filed harassment. And you've got Maxwell Frost from Orlando. This guy. Oh, it's just ridiculous how pathetic the Democrat Party has become. Here's the official story from PBS, which just got defunded. This may be, by the way, the last story you ever see from PBS, because we'll get to that in just a minute. I haven't even started with that. Watch, Booker rails against Senate committee vote for Trump lawyer as Democrats stage walkout. Senate Democrats walked out of a committee vote on Thursday as Republicans advanced the judicial nomination of Emil Bovee. The uproar started when Republican Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley moved to vote on the nomination of Bovee, a top Justice Department official, to the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. Democratic Senator Cory Booker expressed frustration that not all voices had been heard, prompting the rest of the Democrats on the committee to walk out before Republicans advanced his nomination to the floor. Bovee, who, along with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, served as criminal defense lawyers for Trump, has been behind some of the most scrutinized Justice Department actions since Trump returned to office, including the dismissal of New York City Mayor Eric Adams' corruption case. A former Justice Department lawyer accused Bovee of suggesting the department might have to defy court orders. Bovee denied that claim. Blanche wrote in a piece published by Fox News Wednesday that Bovee's legal acumen is extraordinary and his moral clarity is above reproach. So the Democrats are saying this guy is not, I want you to follow this, okay? The Democrats are saying this guy, Emil Bovee, is not qualified to be a district court judge because he tossed the case against Eric Adams. The case against Eric Adams, which the Democrats brought because they didn't like the fact that Eric Adams was complaining about all the illegals that they were shipping to New York City. They tried to use lawfare, just like they did with Donald Trump, to sink Eric Adams' career. He was a Democrat. He was a popularly elected Democrat mayor of New York City. And when he started complaining about Joe Biden and the Department of Homeland Security shipping more illegal immigrants than any one city could hold to New York, watching New York spend all their money flailing and failing to try to house these people in parking garages and school gymnasiums, putting them up in the Roosevelt Hotel, which has basically now been destroyed and will never reopen to its former glory, living on the streets, crime running rampant, drugs, filth, foul, disgusting, trash, garbage, blech, tourism taking a hit. He said New York will never recover. He got on the phone and said, please, Joe Biden, for the love of God, I'm the mayor of New York. You're the president of the United States. Stop sending us illegal immigrants. We can't handle it. And Democrats in Washington, D.C. said to the Democrats in New York, suck it up, Buttercup, shut up, or you're out. And Eric Adams refused to shut up. So they prosecuted him. They trumped up some charges. They charged him the way they did Donald Trump. And then Emil Bovee came around and said, we're going to throw that out. We dismiss this charge. It's bogus. This was Joe Biden trying to control you or ruin you because you fell out of line. And that's why the Democrats don't think that he's qualified to sit on the district court, or circuit court. That's why the Democrats got up and walked out as Cory Booker lamented that it wasn't fair that all voices weren't heard. That's why Cory Booker was left alone to filibuster while the Democrats staged yet another weak political, theatrical performance.
Why are you doing this? This is outrageous.
This is a kangaroo court. That's all we have here,
This
Mr.
is
Chairman.
wrong. To violate your own rules without going by the mandates of the parliamentarian.
Yeah, that's it's a kangaroo court, says Mazie Hirono. We're out of here. She had to go and get. She didn't have her big Stanley with her, so maybe she was thirsty. Anyway, that's the Senate moved along with the email Bove nomination. I believe they passed it. Also, the Senate passed the rescissions bill, which not only cuts out $9 billion of wasteful spending abroad, but also for NPR and PBS. They were totally defunded.
On this vote, the yeas are 51, the nays are 48, and on this vote, the bill is amended as passed.
That's Mark Wayne Mullen, by the way, stumbling through. Mark Wayne Mullen had the gavel and it wasn't really sure what to do or say. So you can hear, it's like the teacher whispering to the student, listen carefully. I'll play that for you. I'll play that for you one more time because it makes me laugh.
On this vote, the yeas are 51, the nays are 48, and on this vote, the bill is amended as passed.
And on this vote, the bill is amended. The bill is amended as passed. And then he gavels it out. Anyway, no, good job. I imagine it's tough up there. I imagine it's tough up there when you're in charge of the Senate and you've never done it and you got the gavel and you've got something important like President Donald Trump's rescission bill to defund PBS and NPR. And it worked. They're defunded. Look, PBS and NPR now are going to have to severely scale back. And if they don't get a lot of corporate sponsorships, if they don't get a lot of sponsorships or money from their viewers, then they're going to go under. They're going to tank. They're not going to be able to survive. And good riddance, I say, because they've been nothing but a partisan waste of money. They have been the propaganda arm of the Democrat Party, and they've been using your taxpayer dollars to do it. I mean, the billions of dollars that NPR and PBS have spent while they're raising money through donations, while they're selling advertising, they're triple dipping. And all they're doing is they're putting out all kinds of ridiculous garbage. Ridiculous garbage that nobody believes. And the fact that they sit there, in fact, the White House always has, they have this great thread that they keep bringing up every now and then because NPR will say, in fact, they both came out, the CEO of NPR, the CEO of PBS, they both came out and said, we are not a partisan organization. We create programming for all Americans. And we don't do anything that is biased. And then, of course, the White House is like, oh, yeah, well, allow us to retort. Allow us to retort because we have a whole listing. And I'm going to try to find this thread. We have a whole listing. We have a whole thread of things that CBS or that a PBS and NPR have done. Like, for example, did you know that birds, according to PBS and NPR, did you know that birds are racist? Did you know that highways are also racist? Everything really is racist in the NPR bill. There's also what was the other thing that they did that was so hilarious? There was another issue where the head of NPR, you may remember, she came forward and she said, "Hey, guess what? I don't think that Donald Trump is the legitimate president." She wore her Biden hat. There were so many different instances over and over and over again where NPR and PBS just had the most ridiculous programming. And they tried to, they put a warning on the Declaration of Independence. There was a documentary about the Declaration of Independence, and they put a warning on it that said some viewers may find language in this document to be offensive. I kid you not. The Declaration of Independence. Some viewers may what is it that in the Declaration of Independence that you find life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Is that what's offensive? Anyway, we won't have to worry about that much longer because they are gone thanks to that rescissions package passing. We won't have to worry about PBS and NPR being biased and calling everybody racist. We'll just count on CNN to do that. And by the way, CNN is totally doing that. CNN, do I have this clip somewhere? I think I do. Hang on. CNN had Scott Jennings back on, our good buddy, and I call him my good buddy because now that I've met him, he's my good buddy. Fun fact, if I ever meet you in person, like IRL, you're going to become my good buddy. That is if I like what you say. Here we go. This was Scott Jennings, and he was on CNN, as he usually is, with Abby Phillips, and they had Tiffany Cross. Do you remember her from MSNBC? She got fired even before Joy Reid did. She's like Timu Joy Reid. And Timu Joy Reid was on CNN talking about comparing illegal immigrants in detention centers to Jewish people in concentration camps. And Scott Jennings said, look, that's offensive to Jewish people.
People who cannot pay their mortgage, people who have been separated from their families, people who are sitting in deportation camps, concentration camps, foreign and domestic. Those people do not want to see people.
It is not. I'm Jewish, and it is not offensive. It's not. It's not a death
get 1,000 texts. People do not.
It's not a
death. I imagine 1,000. I honestly wish they were more offended by the action of this administration. I wish they were more offended by the action of this administration instead of my language. They should focus on something more important than what I call it, and focus more on what's actually happening to people who are getting disappeared by a government agency. And none of us should ever normalize that like it's something rational to do. My point is this entire asinine scene of people playing cartoons. No, I won't get the logic of disappearing people, Scott. And I hope that you don't get it.
Minimizing that.
Your point. I can't believe you're minimizing people being disappeared by the government.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah.
People who cannot pay their mortgage. People who cannot pay their mortgage. People who have been.
Where's my camera? There's basically the point she's trying to make, which is offensive to Jewish people and should be offensive to everybody, is that illegal immigrants, criminals who are detained by ICE in facilities like Alligator Alcatraz or that place in New Jersey that LaMonica McIver tried to bust her Kool-Aid looking butt into. All of these people, they're being held in these detention centers, and they have beds and they have food and they have air conditioning and they have really, they've got, I mean, I'm not going to say great accommodations because it's a detention center, but better than they would have if they were back home. It's better than CCOT. They have individual cells, or at least they're not crammed in one on top of each other. They are being held because they broke the law, but they're being held in a place that is humane until, of course, they can be removed from the country and sent back from whence they came. That's what's happening with these ICE detention facilities. In concentration camps, Jews were taken away, hauled away at gunpoint by Nazi soldiers because they were Jewish, not because they were in the country illegally, not because they were members of gangs, not because they broke the law, not because they murdered or brought in fentanyl or raped people or any of those things, just because they were Jewish. They were shoved onto trains, taken to Dachau, taken to all these other concentration camps, held in the worst conditions, and then eventually they were gassed. And that's a horrible comparison to what's going on with the detention facilities that ICE has set up. And it should be offensive to not just Jewish people, but anybody in the United States of America, except, of course, Timu Joy Reid, who thinks that it's a valid point and who doesn't understand why Scott Jennings disagrees with her. But then again, most people on CNN don't have the common sense to understand why that would be offensive to anybody, especially a Jewish population. And let's face it, the Democrats, they're not big fans of the Jews anymore, as we see with Zohran Mamdani in New York, all of the students at Columbia University that sat out into the courtyard and protested in favor of Palestine and against Israel. We see it all the time. It's really kind of an interesting situation that's popped up. And it's not just with the Democrat Party anymore, but now it's bled into, of course, the mouthpiece of the Democrat Party, which is CNN. There's another thing that's going on, which is the Fed. So Jerome Powell has been in charge of the Fed now for years. And Donald Trump has tried to, I guess you would say, force him to resign, not force him by rule of law or anything like that, but he's basically just said, look, you got to go. You're holding up our economic recovery. The economic recovery under Donald Trump has been swift. We have an incredible economy. We have lower gas prices. We've got amazing investment. We've got tariffs that are coming in from all over the world. All of these things are just, I mean, it's gangbusters. When you look at that, when you look at the fact that wages are rising and the one big beautiful bill just cut taxes for tips and overtime workers and it's giving money back to Social Security recipients, it's an incredible feat in such a short period of time. But when you look at all of that, there's still one piece of the puzzle that's missing. There's still one piece of economic growth Donald Trump wants to make happen, and it's not happening. And that is the price to borrow money for home ownership and business investment and other things is still way too high. And that's because of Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell refuses to lower the interest rate, and therefore it still is out of reach and very difficult for some young people especially to purchase a home. Well, Donald Trump has been going on, he's been going on a tirade to whoever will listen, and he was on yesterday talking about, well, first he talked about it in the Oval Office when he met with the Crown Prince of Bahrain. And then he went on TV and basically called out Jerome Powell once again for his idiocy.
Everything else is so strong, we're bullying through the rates, the high interest rates. The housing market would boom if this, numbskull, he's a numbskull. And if this guy would, can you imagine, we're talking about housing, he's building a building, he's building an addition, I guess for more people to tell him what to do, and he's always wrong. They had 71 different geniuses that they interviewed and that were put up. You probably saw that. I
did.
And with predictions. And the only one that got it right was me and one other person. 69 were wrong. This guy got it wrong, and he wants to put in thousands of additional people to tell him what to say. I mean, how many people do you need? Read a newspaper and make your own decision, right?
Sir, are you thinking of removing him, or do you think he resigns before his term's out, Jerome Powell?
I'd love if he wants to resign. That would be up to him. They say it would disrupt the market if I did, but there are many people say he should be removed because of the fraud of what he's doing at the Fed with regard to the $2.5 billion. He's spending $2.5 billion to I guess it's a renovation. I don't know.
That's all it is. It's just a renovation.
I have to go. I'm very good at that stuff. I should go look at it at least. I feel,
yeah, we got a story up on it today. It's crazy. The building costs less to build than it's cost to renovate. It's insane. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like one of the most expensive buildings in the world. He's putting all sorts of parks on the top of the building and that. And I guarantee the contractors are making a fortune. No, this is not a guy. This is a guy who was recommended. He was recommended to me by Mnuchin, and he worked out good.
Yep. So President Donald Trump saying, look, it would disrupt the markets. They tell me it would disrupt the markets if I fired him. The New York Times reporting that Donald Trump already has a letter ready to go, but having a letter ready to go and delivering it are two totally different things. Trump has draft of letter to fire Fed chair. He asked Republicans if he should send it. The president waived a copy of a draft letter firing Jerome H. Powell at a meeting in the Oval Office with House Republicans. It remains to be seen whether he follows through with his threat. Again, keep in mind, President Donald Trump, he knows the power of publicity. He knows the power of the grand gesture, if you will. He understands how waving a letter in front of Republicans who were summoned to the Oval Office to discuss the Genius Act and their opposition to it, he knows that's going to get out. He knows it's going to get back to people. He knows it's going to get back to Jerome Powell. And President Trump is saying, I'm not firing him. I'm not firing him. I'll wave a letter. I just asked, should I send a letter? That's all I didn't say I was going to fire him. President Trump showed off the draft letter of firing the chair of Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, during a meeting with roughly a dozen House Republicans on Tuesday night, polling them as to whether he should do it and indicating that he likely would. According to two people briefed on the meeting, it remains to be seen whether Mr. Trump will actually go ahead with firing Jerome Powell, a move that some in his administration have cautioned could be calamitous and have far more expansive fallout than the president appears to anticipate. I talked about the concept of firing him. I said, what do you think? Almost every one of them said I should, Mr. Trump said, adding, but I'm more conservative. Mr. Trump, who often reflexively disputes news reports about his actions, said he didn't have a letter drafted. Now, the thing about the Fed renovations is very interesting because this project that Jerome Powell oversees is really over budget. I mean, it's way more over budget than that stupid train that Donald Trump just cut the funding for in California, thank God. Marketplace. A deadline looms next week for Fed Chair Jerome Powell as part of President Donald Trump's campaign to pressure the Fed to cut interest rates. Powell is supposed to respond to a letter from the Office of Management and Budget Director Russell Vought questioning renovations to the Fed's Washington, D.C. headquarters. Some Fed watchers believe the dispute is a pretext to fire Powell. The letter gives the Fed chair until July 21st, which is soon, to respond to a series of questions about cost overruns in the nearly $2.5 billion renovation. The Fed said the buildings in question haven't been renovated since the 1930s. Former Fed historian Gary Richardson can attest to that. The bathrooms down in the basement near the library are really kind of scary, he said. Richardson said the water in sinks is scalding and the buildings are not very accessible for people with limited mobility. The Fed blames the higher price tag on asbestos and contaminated soil removal and said the water table is higher than expected. I think it's a weak case. I think Powell will challenge it, said attorney Cornelius Hurley. Hurley said Trump should worry about how markets will react if he does terminate Powell. If Trump were to alienate the establishment could exact its own punishment, he said. In other words, even if Trump succeeded in replacing Powell, he might not get the lower interest rates that he wants. So the Fed chair refusing to remove himself is the last piece of the puzzle in Donald Trump's economic plan to skyrocket growth, to bolster the home building industry and the market. I mean, if you've got a home and the market explodes, then there's all kinds of money floating around, cheap money floating around that people will be able to access to build even more of a fortune, to build even more of a nest egg, to build a business. And the fact of the matter is that Jerome Powell is the only one currently standing in the way of all of that. If Donald Trump can get rid of him, then that would be a boon. Let's go quickly now. It looks like the press briefing has begun. I want to grab a little bit of that. We're a little late to it, but here we go. Caroline Leavitt is now in the White House press briefing room, it appears, and we will go there somewhat live.
Apologize for our tardiness. I was with the president. Let me begin with a few scheduling announcements today. President Trump will travel to Scotland, where he will visit both Turnberry and Aberdeen from July 25th to July 29th.
I mean, if you're going to go,
during the visit,
both
President
Turnberry
Trump
and
will meet again with Prime Minister Starmer to refine the great trade deal that was brokered between the United States and the United Kingdom. And the President and the First Lady will travel to the United Kingdom for an official state visit from September 17th to September 19th later this fall.
Okay.
This will mark a truly unprecedented second state visit for President Trump, and he is honored and looking forward to meeting with His Majesty the King at Windsor Castle. There has been a wave of positive economic news over the past week, which I would like to highlight today. Joe Biden's inflation crisis has been defeated.
Hear, hear.
Prices paid to American businesses for goods and services were flat in June, which is lower than all 50 forecasters in the Bloomberg survey predicted. And core inflation, which is the best measure of inflation, came in lower than expected again in the month of June.
No inflation in June is huge.
Since President Trump took office, core inflation has tracked at just 2.1% overall and has come in below or at economists' expectations every single month. Wages are growing at a strong pace and prices are falling for everyday Americans. We also saw prices for new and used vehicles and airfares drop last month. In addition, prices for gas, fuel oil, energy commodities, hotels, airfare, public transportation, and fresh vegetables are all down over last year.
Yeah, airfare's way down. I just booked some flights yesterday.
Trust in President Trump. The American dream is back, and everyday families are already reaping the benefits of this incredible economic turnaround in just 6 months. President Trump has ended the era of economic surrender and implemented powerful tariffs to stand up for our workers and businesses and rebalance America's trading agreements. Despite all of the doom casting from the so-called experts claiming that these tariffs would be the end of the world as we know it, the opposite has occurred. Tariffs are not inflationary, as President Trump has said all along. In reality, tariffs are a source of massive revenue. We're seeing trillions of dollars in private investment pour into our country right now because the companies around this world want to make their products right here with American labor and not have to pay any tariffs at all. Customs and tariff revenue has already totaled more than $113 billion
I mean, that's kind
since
of
President
insane.
Trump entered office,
That's kind of
helping
insane.
to lead a budget surplus in June for the first time in nearly a decade. We are truly entering a golden age as a result of these pro-growth and America First trade policies. On another matter, yesterday in the East Room, the president was proud to sign the Halt All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act into law, surrounded by angel families to help finally end the devastating fentanyl crisis that has ravaged millions of Americans. Under the Halt Fentanyl Act, anyone who possesses, imports, distributes, or manufactures any illicit fentanyl-related substances will be subject to criminal prosecution in the same manner as any other Schedule I controlled substance.
I'm
This
shocked
legislation will close the loopholes that criminals use to skirt around the law and make it easier for law enforcement to prosecute vicious traffickers who peddle poison in our communities. President Trump has always made tackling the drug crisis a top priority, and this important bipartisan legislation further follows through on that commitment. The complete and total success at our southern border that many in the media in this room continue to ignore is another example of the president keeping his word to families who have lost loved ones due to fentanyl, and it's another win for the American people. Customs and Border Protection just released the final operationalized stats for the month of June, and I must highlight some of these incredible numbers.
Okay.
There were only 6,072 Southwest apprehensions in June, 15% lower than the previous record that this president set in the month of March. To put that in perspective, the Biden administration routinely saw the same number of encounters in a single day. And on many days, that number was more than 10,000 apprehensions at the Southwest border. There were also 0 illegal aliens released along the Southwest border for the second consecutive month in a row. President Trump promised to end the illegal alien invasion, and he has delivered on that promise to the American people in record time. With the border sealed, deportations are ramping up. This past weekend, our brave ICE agents were arresting violent criminal illegal aliens all across the country.
Good job.
ICE Atlanta arrested an illegal alien from Mexico, convicted of attempted rape of a child in North Carolina.
I think I know that guy.
ICE Baltimore arrested an illegal alien from Guatemala who was previously convicted for sexual abuse of a minor in Maryland. ICE Houston arrested a criminal illegal alien from Mexico whose previous conviction includes aggravated sexual assault of a child in Texas. ICE Salt Lake City arrested a 32-year-old illegal criminal alien from Mexico who was previously convicted for child abuse and injury. ICE Baltimore arrested a criminal illegal alien from El Salvador convicted in Maryland for possession of child pornography. And ICE San Antonio arrested a criminal illegal alien from Mexico convicted of aggravated sexual assault in Texas.
Okay.
The men and women of ICE are heroes. They are putting their lives on the line every day to get the worst of the worst, these types of criminals, out of our communities and out of our country. And the president continues to strongly have the backs of all ICE agents who are doing their jobs to keep all of us, including everyone in this room, safe.
Yeah, even though you people are ungrateful B-words.
Sorry, 1 second. In other news, following President Trump's bold executive actions protecting American children from irreversible chemical and surgical mutilation, the largest provider of these barbaric practices will now be closing its doors. The facility in Los Angeles, California, is just the latest facility downsizing or eliminating their irreversible and harmful services that feed into the lie that you can somehow change a child's sex. The Biden administration peddled dangerous policies that defied medical science in favor of radical transgender ideology. But President Trump has put an end to that to ensure America's children's innocence is protected and our children can lead healthy and productive lives. Finally, last night, Senate Republicans passed President Trump's $9 billion rescissions package. This will help restore fiscal sanity in our country by rescinding billions in wasteful foreign aid and finally ending taxpayer funding for PBS and NPR, two media organizations that have ridiculously used federal dollars to push a partisan left-wing agenda for many years.
Are they in the room, I wonder?
The House should pass this rescissions package immediately and send it to the president's desk for signature.
Yeah, they're going to have an issue with that, by the way?
I know that many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House medical unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition. particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease.
That's good.
Laboratory testing included a complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers. All results were within normal limits. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified. Additionally, recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen.
Frequent handshaking.
This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health.
And Donald Trump hates shaking hands.
On a daily basis.
He never wanted to shake hands with people. Now he's got an injured hand.
I'm happy to take further questions on it. We will provide the memorandum from the president's position.
That's amazing, by the way, that they did that preemptively.
And we'll get to questions here in our
because Joe Biden would never do that.
Corva, who's the White House correspondent for Bitcoin Magazine, which comes at a timely week with crypto legislation moving across Capitol Hill. So why don't you kick us off, Frank, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Ms. Levitt.
Sure.
I was curious to hear if the president was in favor of removing any and all language around central bank digital currencies from the Genius Act, maybe as a means to get it across the line and get it on his desk. And then my second question was about something the president spoke about in this room. He talked about a $600 de minimis tax exemption for Bitcoin and other crypto spending. So I was just wondering if you could comment on those.
Sure. Well,
all right, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really care about Bitcoin at the moment, so I want to talk about what just happened with the president's medical evaluation. There have been photos being passed around, as there always are, of President Donald Trump's hand being bruised. Somebody said they put some makeup on the bruise, and they probably did that because people were asking questions. Also, his legs, he was at the FIFA World Cup. He was sitting down on the sideline. People said that his ankles were very swollen. It looked really, and then of course all these WebMD online AI doctors were trying to speculate as to what was going on with the president, saying he was near death and he couldn't handle the pressure and blah 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 blah. And there were photos of JD Vance sitting at the Resolute desk and people going, the countdown begins or something. All that ridiculousness. The fact that President Donald Trump had Caroline Leavitt come out and mention it preemptively is fantastic, because the one thing that Joe Biden never did was answer questions about his health. Come out preemptively and transparently and say, here's why Joe Biden falls up the stairs. Here's why Joe Biden doesn't know where the exit is. Here's why Joe Biden thinks that the dead congresswoman's in the room. I mean, we all know why, but they never addressed it. They never offered any medical evidence to him being mentally and physically capable to do the job. And now look what's happening. Now we've got the whole auto pen controversy, and Donald Trump is saying, we're not like that. We're the anti-Joe Biden. And if you think that there's a problem with me, I'm going to prove you otherwise.
There's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein files.
And here we go.
The president's comments yesterday calling it a hoax. Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous crimes. It was this president who directed the Department of Justice and the Attorney General to do an exhaustive review of all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, which they did. The Attorney General and the FBI, led by Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, these are great patriots, some of the most trusted voices in the Republican Party movement. It's part of the reason the president appointed them to these high law enforcement positions, and they spent many months going through all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein, and they concluded what they found in that memo, which they drafted and they released. And so the president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about. The president has been working so hard this week. On Tuesday, he went to Pennsylvania, where he secured $90 billion in investments for the Commonwealth, for the people of that state. After that, he came back to the Oval Office at 8 p.m. He went in there to whip votes to get the Genius Act signed into law. And because of his efforts, that bill is now going to be signed and passed. The following day, yesterday, he meets with a foreign leader, the King of Bahrain, to secure more investments into this country. And then yesterday afternoon, The president is in the East Room of the White House mourning with parents who have lost their children because of fentanyl, signing a bipartisan piece of legislation. And not a single cable network in this country took that event live and covered that event like they should. Those are the issues the president cares about. What could be more important to the American people than helping families who have lost their children? Those are the issues this president is going to remain focused on.
I understand he wants to move on from this story, but you do have some prominent figures, including the Senate Majority Leader, the House Speaker, voicing support for the files to come out. Representative Massey collecting signatures that would force a discharge petition for a vote on the floor for this. It doesn't seem to be going away. What is stopping the administration from just redacting any sensitive information, grand jury information, and putting out what is appropriate so that the American people can decide and then let this story die?
Well, in terms of redactions or grand jury seals, those are questions for the Department of Justice. Those are also questions for the judges who have that information under a seal. And that would have to be requested, and a judge would have to approve it. That's out of the president's control. He has said, in agreement with some of the leaders on Capitol Hill, that if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice come across any other credible evidence, they should provide that to the American people. The president has said that, and he agrees with them on that.
Why did you fire Maureen Comey?
The Department of Justice did, and I would defer you to them. Dasha.
Oh, we'll get to that
White
next.
House been directly in touch with some of the MAGA influencers that are still not satisfied with the administration's handling, and has the message to them been similar to what the president has said, which is sort of either let this go or we don't need your support?
Well, look, the president and this team are always in contact with the president's supporters, with voices of many kinds on both sides of the aisle. I think that's part of the reason this president is a great president, because he's willing to listen and hear other people's perspectives. But ultimately, he has led this country, not just over the past 6 months to historic success, but also through his first 4 years as president. And as the leader and the creator of the MAGA movement, he has led through these perilous times for our country based on instinct and in the best interest of the country. And as I always say, the American people should trust in President Trump.
John, go ahead,
John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. The president on Monday announced that if there's not compliance with Russia within 50 days, there would be increased tariffs. Can you explain how that works, first of all? What happens if Russia doesn't end its war with Ukraine in 50 days?
Well, in 50 days, as the president clearly laid out, if there is not a ceasefire agreement or a peace deal within that time frame, if Russia refuses to legitimately agree to a ceasefire, then they will face very steep tariffs, and they will also face secondary sanctions. So countries that are purchasing oil from Russia will be sanctioned as well, and of course that will do deep damage to Russia's economy. And I would just add that the president wants this war to end with a diplomatic solution. He's been pushing for it. This administration has spent many hours and a lot of time trying to solve this war very far away, but the president wants to stop the killing, and he wants to save lives.
Reagan,
go
What
ahead.
you were saying, Caroline.
Reagan, go ahead.
I have two questions for you. It's just about, if I may, just about the tariffs, the first part. I get the secondary tariffs, but there was only $3 billion worth of trade between the U.S. and Russia in 2024. It's expected to be far less this particular year. On April the 2nd, both you and the Treasury Secretary said it's not necessary to apply any tariffs on Russia. You said that because of the lack of trade, it precludes, that was the word you used, any need for tariffs. Why now, and why do you think that that would make them cave and come to some sort of peace agreement as it relates to Ukraine?
$3 billion is still a lot of money, John, and it's not just tariffs, it's the secondary sanctions as well that will be implemented in 50 days.
And she's right. That is true. That's what's going to really destroy Russia's economy, because if you go to other countries...
Salazar introduced legislation that would give some illegal immigrants in the country a path to citizenship.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about this too. That would definitely devastate Russia's economy, because they sell tons of oil to all these countries that aren't really friendly with us, and if we put sanctions on that
From my
oil,
understanding, the White House
they'll
or
stop
the
buying.
president has actually read through this legislation. We've been focused on, of course, the One Big Beautiful Bill, which passed, which is another historic accomplishment of this president in record time. The Genius Act this week, the rescissions package, that's been the focus of the White House. But the president has made it very clear he will not support amnesty for
no
illegal
amnesty,
aliens in any way.
No amnesty, not even soft amnesty.
The CEO of NPR, she's claiming that the cuts to their network will, quote, be a real risk to public safety of the country. Murkowski has argued that public broadcasting stations save lives. Could you respond to these concerns?
Wait,
the
what?
NPR CEO said cutting NPR will be a risk to public safety. I am not sure how NPR helps the public safety of our country, but I do know that NPR, unfortunately, has become really just a propaganda voice for the left. Just a few examples for you. In 2020, NPR refused to cover the Hunter Biden laptop scandal in the run-up to the election. They said their assertions don't amount to much, writing they did not want to waste the listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. That does not sound like an unbiased opinion. That sounds like a partisan opinion to me. And this is a taxpayer-funded organization. In 2018, that same CEO that you're talking about called the president in the Oval Office, who nearly 80 million Americans elected, she called him racist, shared a photo of herself wearing a Biden for President campaign hat, serves on the board of a Soros-funded activist group. In 2020, PBS's White House correspondent at the time characterized President Trump's speech then at Mount Rushmore as a love letter to white resentment, promoting the myth of America. In 2017, PBS devoted an entire panel talking about what it means to be woke and white privilege. In 2023, PBS's Washington Week Roundtable covered up Joe Biden's clear mental divide. That's actually quite the clip. I would encourage all of you to look at it. These are not honest news organizations. These are partisan, left-wing outlets that are funded by the taxpayers.
Not
and
anymore.
This administration does not believe it's a good use of the taxpayers' time and money. Ed Lawrence.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. I want to ask you about the Federal Reserve. So does the president believe that the slightly restrictive monetary policy stance right now, could that cause an economic slowdown? And if he does believe that, when?
What pause are you referring to?
No, could the stance of the monetary policy is slightly restrictive? Does the president believe that that stance, the slightly restrictive stance, could cause an economic slowdown in itself?
I haven't heard the president discuss that specifically, but what I do know in regards to the Federal Reserve is the president's been very transparent about his displeasure with both the policies and the management of the Fed, and he spoke about that to all of you pretty extensively in the Oval Office yesterday.
Yeah, and last month, one more if I could, last month the Canadian Prime Minister said the president had agreed to a July 21st deadline to sort of work towards a trade agreement. That's 4 days from now. Could there be a trade agreement with Canada in 4 days?
Well, look, we'll see. The trade team continues to be very active in our
conversations
and discussions with Canada. The president himself has said, unfortunately, our neighbors to the north have been pretty difficult to deal with when it comes to matters on trade. But in trade, generally speaking, as you know, 25 countries have received letters thus far from the president directly with his big, beautiful signature on them, from Japan to Korea, South Africa, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, just a few countries, and Canada also received a letter for 35%. With that said, if countries want to have legitimate further discussions, the Trump administration and the president's trade team are willing to have further talks, but these letters these countries have been receiving are the deals. And as the president has said, those deals will be made. They are tailor-made to each and every country based on the United States' concerns and what's in the best interest of the American worker and the American people. Charlie, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline.
No, I called on Charlie, but Deanna, you can go ahead too. Go ahead.
The president said that he floated the idea of a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. Can you confirm that? And has he asked the Attorney General to do this, to appoint a special prosecutor to look it over?
Well, the idea was floated from someone in the media to the president. The president would not recommend a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. That's how he feels. And as for his discussions with the Attorney General, I'm not sure. Deanna.
Caroline, thank you so much. Do you know what the president's reaction was to Mike Johnson saying that he wants additional files released, the Epstein files? Was there a conversation with Mike Johnson about that following his comments?
I won't discuss the president's private conversations with the Speaker of the House, but as I answered to Jackie's question earlier, the president has said if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice and the FBI have any more credible evidence in regards to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, they should put that forward. He has called on them to do that.
Sure. Thank you, Caroline.
With a few days.
I'll go to all of you, starting with the lady in the blue. Go ahead.
With a few days to the August 9th deadline, how are the negotiations with Europe going? There's some sticking points. What are they? Can we expect a delay, or should we expect a deal soon?
Well, I believe the deadline is August 1st. As for the European Union, they continue to be very eager in negotiating with our country for obvious reasons on ways to lower their tariff and their non-tariff barriers that we have long said harm our workers and our companies. So the President's trade team continue to be in talks with the European Union.
Would he accept, or would he put forth a postponement of the August 1st?
He's already said he will not.
Caroline,
Owen, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Caroline. In Gaza today, Holy Family Catholic Church was struck by an Israeli shell.
By the way, I go to Holy Family Catholic Church, a different Holy Family Catholic Church.
Church coming under fire.
It was not a positive reaction. He called Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning to address the strikes on that church in Gaza, and I understand the Prime Minister agreed to put out a statement. It was a mistake by the Israelis to hit that Catholic church. That's what the Prime Minister relayed to the President, and you should look at the Prime Minister's statement that will be coming out. Steve, go ahead.
Back to your letter that you read at the beginning.
Sure.
The President, you said mild swelling in his legs. Is it causing him any discomfort? How are you treating it?
Nope. No discomfort from the President at all, and you probably all see that on a day-to-day basis. He's working around the clock. As for the treatments, I can defer to the President's physician, and we'll get you this letter. I think it will answer all your questions.
There are reports that a Chinese-born banker who works in Atlanta for Wells Fargo is being prevented from leaving China. Has the President, is he going to bring this up with President Xi? Are you aware of the case?
I'm not aware of the case, but I'm sure our National Security Council team is. Steve will get you some answers on that.
Kristen. Thank you, Caroline. Two questions. So the first is that President Trump said that the Attorney General only gave him a brief overview of what was in these Epstein files. Does he have knowledge or an understanding of what is in the files related to Epstein that have not been released?
Not to my knowledge, and that's a question for the Attorney General, as I said, and the President has told the Attorney General if they have any more credible evidence, they should release it.
Is that evidence, would she have to run that by the President before she released it?
I don't think so. He said if she has any more credible evidence, she should release it.
Go
ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead, yes.
Great. Thank you, Caroline. Two questions. One, today...
And you can go ahead, Andrew. Don't worry.
Today, tens of thousands of folks are rallying nationwide to honor the legacy of Congressman John Lewis. Meanwhile, Republicans in Texas reportedly are working to redraw congressional maps at President Trump's urging. How is President Trump reconciling his call to action for Texas Republicans with the legacy of Representative John Lewis?
I'm not quite sure how the two things are related. I think the President
that is kind of a
John
stretch.
Lewis served our country for many, many years. It has nothing to do with the redistricting efforts that are currently underway by Texas Republicans to add seats to their legislature. They have the right to do that.
Yeah.
The President spoke to the congressmen and women who serve the great state of Texas about it, but it's up to them and it's up to their legislature to get that approved.
Yeah, that was a nice try, though, buddy.
Second question,
Go
does
ahead.
the President support the Justice Department's request for just 1 day in jail for the officer convicted in Breonna Taylor's killing? And what message is
Also, John Lewis was from Georgia, so I don't even know why he's trying to tie Texas and John Lewis together. John Lewis was from Georgia 5.
Just the president, when the president met the interim president of Syria a couple of months ago, he described him as a young, tough, attractive guy. After the latest clashes in Syria over the last few days, does President Trump still support Syria's interim president?
The President still supports Syria's pathway to a peaceful and prosperous country, and you received an update directly from the Secretary of State on the ongoing situation between Syria and Israel. I spoke to him myself this morning to get an update, and as soon as the United States became involved in this conflict, we were able to de-escalate, deconflict. That seems to be continuing. Syria agreed to draw back their troops that were in the area where that clash was ongoing, and we continue to be very actively monitoring the situation. The President wants to see Syria become a prosperous and stable country, and by the lifting of the sanctions on Syria, he's giving them a real chance to do that, and he wants to see that through. Andrew, go ahead.
So on Tuesday, the President told a very detailed story about his uncle, noted scientist John Trump, and Theodore Kaczynski, the late Unabomber. He said that Dr. Trump taught Ted Kaczynski. Ted Kaczynski was not identified as the Unabomber until 1996, 11 years after John Trump passed away, it would have been impossible for John Trump to have ever discussed the Unabomber with the president. So what was he talking about? And I have one follow-up.
Andrew, with so many issues going on in the world, I'm a little bit surprised you would ask such a question, although I'm not sometimes coming from you, I will say, but I'm willing to give you an answer. Nevertheless, the president's uncle did, in fact, teach at MIT. He was a very intelligent professor. The president's very proud of his family. In fact, the president has a letter from his uncle on the MIT letterhead that sits in the Oval Office dining room. Maybe we'll let you see it sometime.
And then Caroline, one more on,
Elizabeth,
will the president consider pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell if the Epstein case is a hoax?
Okay, I'll start off with the president said last week he would not be getting involved in the New York City mayoral case. If that mayoral race, if that's still the case, given his history drawing a large crowd in New York City, what's his reason for staying out of it in that way?
Well, look, I think the president reserves the right to get involved in races or not get involved in races, and he's made the decision not to weigh in on the New York mayoral race, as you rightly pointed out. Although he has gone as far to say he absolutely does not want to see Zemdami elected, who is a known communist who supports the abolishment of private property, the defunding of police. He has made very well-known anti-Semitic statements. It would be a disaster for New York and for this country. And I think it's quite telling that this individual, a known communist, has been spending time in Washington this week meeting with leaders on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, that is...
This is truly where the Democrat Party is headed. Clearly, they learned nothing from November 5th in the president's overwhelming victory.
That is the big issue. And he will get involved in some way.
I want to backtrack to the hospitals that have stopped providing transgender surgeries and hormones for kids. On this front, does that have anything to do with the DOJ's subpoenas last week? Should we expect any more hospitals to be shutting down their programs? And I wanted to also ask what you make of all these media reports, especially the AP, which I noticed, which portrays these children as losing something that's saving their lives.
Yes, I think the president spoke a lot about this issue, which is a political issue, but also really a cultural issue that impacts children and families. He talked about it a lot on the campaign, and I think he was quite surprised by the uptick we were seeing in the embracement by the Democrat Party when it comes to the chemical castration and mutilation of young, innocent bodies. And so the president made it a very early priority to sign very strong executive orders to cut off the funding for any hospital or any medical facility in this country that provides such barbaric procedures. And as a result of that strong policy and the president's strong common sense position on this issue, we've had such an overwhelming response, which is great for children in Arizona. Phoenix Children's Hospital has stopped providing puberty blockers and hormone therapy to minors. In California, Stanford Medicine ended sex change surgeries for minors. Children's Hospital Los Angeles is closing its Center for Trans Youth Health and Development surgical program. In Illinois, Lurie Children's Hospital Chicago stopped sex change surgeries. Again, let's think about what we're talking about here. Sex change surgeries for minors. These are barbaric practices that no child, innocent child, should have to endure. And the president wants to protect the innocence of children, and I know the vast majority of Americans support him in that effort. This is a wildly popular and common sense endeavor this administration has taken, and we've seen many of these medical institutions have followed through with the president's executive orders, but will continue to take further action on this important issue. Garrett.
I too, if you'll indulge me.
Sure.
On the rescissions package, I wonder what the White House makes of this theory that it increases the odds of a shutdown. The theory is basically, why would any Democrat vote for a bipartisan spending deal with Republicans if Republicans can turn around and claw the money back the next day?
Look, $9 billion worth of crap that it was in our federal funding that is now being rescinded. This is a good thing for the American people and the American taxpayer, and I think our Office of Management and Budget Director was saying this process should be more bipartisan. Democrats, there was a time in this country where Democrats too cared about getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal spending. I think every American agrees the government spends way too much money on things that don't matter. Some of those things include PBS and NPR.
Yeah.
Or, for instance, the Democracy Fund, which was funded to the tune of $83 million through the Department of State, but they were giving hundreds of thousands of dollars for gender equality and empowerment hubs in Yemen, $3.9 million for strengthening information integrity, equality, and democracy for LGBTQI population of the Western Balkans. These are not good uses of the taxpayer funds, and Republicans are proud to lead that effort, and we wish more Democrats would join us in that.
I wanted to follow up on the Maureen Comey question just to clarify. Did the White House have any knowledge, or did the president sign off on her firing?
This was a decision that was made by the Department of Justice.
There was an agreement that was made between Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services regarding access to Medicaid information.
Oh, yeah, this is good. ICE now has access to Medicaid information so they can go after illegal immigrants who are on Medicaid.
So how does that not violate HIPAA violations and privacy concerns, for example, of American citizens?
I'm going to have to defer you to Immigration and Customs Enforcement on that. I'm unfamiliar with that agreement that they made.
Thanks, Caroline. 2 questions. Russ Vought said today he's going to be looking into cost overruns in the Fed's renovation projects. Is there a deadline for him to come back with findings to the president?
I don't believe there's a deadline the president has set for Russ Vought, but I think, again, this is a good use of taxpayers' time to look into this project that is millions and millions of dollars over budget. It's for a big, beautiful mansion for the federal chairman, reserve chairman, and I understand that it costs much more than it did the beautiful palace that many of you joined us at when we went overseas. So it's completely unnecessary. It's overpriced. And I think it's a good thing the administration, led by the president, is looking into it.
If there ever were to find wrongdoing or fraud, would the president reconsidering firing Jerome Powell?
Look, it's a hypothetical question. We'll see where it goes. The president spoke about how he feels on this matter yesterday.
Sure.
Thank
you
you
so much, Caroline. So we saw Ambassador Huckabee arrive to Prime Minister Netanyahu's trial to show his support. Does the president plan to impose any kind of sanctions against the Israel judicial system?
I don't have any update for you on that or any announcement on that front. I don't believe so.
Does the president believe that justice has been served in the Epstein case?
Look, the president believes that he directed the Department of Justice to do an exhaustive and thorough review, and they did that. And they all agreed, the FBI director, the deputy FBI director, the attorney general, on the memo that they drafted and they released.
Thank you, Caroline. Just a follow-up on Reagan's question. Representative Salazar's bill, it grants illegal aliens with legal status for 7-year increments. It also gives permanent path to residency for so-called dreamers. And, you know, President Trump and Labor Secretary Chavez, who previously co-sponsored a version of this bill when she was in the House, they've spoken about a work deal similar to the bill, I believe. What's the difference between a work deal and amnesty?
Look, as I told Reagan, the president, the White House have not reviewed this specific piece of legislation. It's just not where our focus has been. But the president, for one, has been very clear he does not support amnesty. We'll go to, oh, look at some friends in the back. Brian, go ahead. You didn't show up early enough to get some good real estate up here.
I love it. Any update on the auto pen? I know that there was some...
Yeah, let's get to the auto pen scandal.
The thousands of documents that were signed off just before Joe Biden left office. Any update on the auto pen?
Yes. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at how far away you are, and you're going to need to get some microphones back there. On the auto pen investigation, yes. The White House counsel's office has launched their own investigation into former President Biden's usage of the auto pen.
That's good. That's good. That's something.
We have requested some documents
good
from
use
the
of
National
time.
Archives, and again, as I've said many times from this podium, and the president has said as well, it's incredibly important that we get to the bottom of who really was at the tip of the spear in the decision-making process here in the White House, because former President Biden himself admitted to the New York Times, I understand he never gave interviews when he was here, but now all of a sudden he wants to give one, and he said that he did not actually review every single pardon that that he signed on his way out the door. That's incredibly concerning, and I can tell you it's something this president would never tolerate. This is a president who is signing things all the time. Any document that has legal implications, this president's signature is on it because he's the one making the decisions. It does not appear that was the truth in the previous White House, and I know the American people want to receive answers on who was running the show because the decisions that were made in this place really destroyed our country, and we deserve to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Mark, in the back.
Thanks. Some Christian groups are complaining that they are not able to get visas as quickly to travel to Israel, and it's been elevated to Ambassador Huckabee's station. Is the White House aware of that? Does it have any reaction to that? And is that part of the president's disappointment with Netanyahu's government?
Look, I'm not aware of that, Mark, but I'm sure, again, our National Security Council is, and also the State Department, as you know, travel visas roll through Secretary Rubio's shop over there, whom we work very closely with. So we will check in on the matter. But I know overall, this president and the administration do want to streamline the visa process to make it easier for both Americans who want to travel abroad and people abroad who want to come to our country the legal way.
By the way, this is a.
I was going to the gentleman above
This
you,
seems
but go
like
ahead, Libby.
this seems like an extended press conference today. So this may be the only one we're getting for a while.
The Whole Nation Summit, Secretary Noem suggested there could be some changes to TSA's liquid limits. Is the president aware of that? Is that an idea that he's backing?
All right. In the interest of time, I'm gonna have to pull away for just a second because there are two stories that we didn't get to yet that we need to get to, and they are both stories that have come up in the White House press briefing. One of them is about Maureen Comey, who is James Comey's daughter and was fired from the Department of Justice. And that's something that happened. The Pam Bondi fired her. Now, again, this is one of those interesting things I say where I'm not really sure where the White House is on Epstein because they're trying to bury the story. Donald Trump is trying to bury the story. He doesn't like people talking about it. He doesn't like people focused on it. He wants it out of the headlines. He wants people focused on the one big beautiful bill and all of the economic, glory and all of the deportations and making America great again, all that stuff. And, as well he should. But then in the midst of all of this, when there are questions about the Epstein files, Maureen Comey, who prosecuted Jeffrey Epstein and who a lot of people believe was holding back some of the files in the FBI district office in New York State, gets fired. Really weird timing. Maureen Comey, who prosecuted Diddy and Epstein, says she was fired by DOJ without reason, worries her termination will sow fear. Maureen Comey, the daughter of ex-FBI Director James Comey, said Thursday she was fired from the powerful Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office without reason, as she warned that the Justice Department's decision to axe her will only sow alarm and that fear is the tool of a tyrant. Yesterday was unexpectedly my last day in the office. I was summarily fired via memo from Maine Justice that did not give a reason for my termination, Comey wrote in an email to colleagues. Comey, a veteran lawyer in the Southern District of New York, where she prosecuted Jeffrey Epstein, his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell, and most recently Sean Diddy Combs, went on to suggest that her firing without apparent reason was an abuse of power. If a career prosecutor can be fired without reason, fear may seep into the decisions of those who remain. Do not let that happen, Comey wrote. Fear is the tool of a tyrant, wielded to suppress independent thought. Instead of fear, let this moment fuel the fire that already burns at the heart of this place, a fire of righteous indignation at abuses of power, of commitment to seek justice for victims, of dedication to truth above all else. Comey was informed Wednesday that she was being booted under Article 2 of the Constitution, which describes the powers of the president according to multiple sources. Let's go back very quickly to Caroline Leavitt because it looks like she's wrapping up and people, apparently she had something funny to say at the very end of this. So let me bring that back up.
What the administration has to say about it, and specifically what areas are currently open to negotiation in the light of the 50% tariffs that were announced.
Sure. The president is certainly not trying to be the emperor of the world. He is a strong president for the United States of America, and he's also the leader of the free world. And we've seen a great shift across the entire globe because of the strong leadership of this president. In regards to Brazil, the president sent a letter to Brazil announcing their new tariff percentage. He also directed our USTR ambassador, Jameson Greer, to launch an investigation of Brazil under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974, designed to address unfair foreign practices that are affecting U.S. commerce. For years, we know Brazil's digital regulations and weak IP protections have undermined U.S. tech and innovative companies, and their tolerance of illegal deforestation and other environmental practices puts American producers, manufacturers, farmers, and ranchers who follow better environmental standards at a competitive disadvantage. So this president always acts in the best interest of the American people and the United States of America, and he will continue to do so. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you.
All right, that's it. That's the end of that. So anyway, back to Comey. So Comey, where is it? Let's go. Where is she? Here she is. So Comey was informed Wednesday she was being booted under Article 2 of the Constitution, which describes the powers of the president, blah, 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 blah. Her ouster came just weeks after Combs' nearly month-long trial, which she worked on with 5 other federal prosecutors, ended with the jury acquitting the disgraced hip-hop mogul of the most serious charges against him: racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. She'd previously worked on the prosecutions of disgraced financial pedophile Epstein and his madam, Maxwell, who was found guilty of multiple sex crimes at trial in 2022 and sentenced to 20 years in prison. This was inevitable, one U.S. attorney source told the Post. On paper, you can say it was merit-based because of her connection to the P. Diddy and case of the Epstein stink. The source added it would not be a stretch to say her father didn't help her career, referring to the president's long-running tiff with the elder Comey, whom Trump fired as FBI director in 2017 during his first term. So, with this woman out, with her getting fired, it's definitely, again, sure, if P. Diddy gets off and you were the prosecutor, that's grounds to say, you know what, you're maybe not the best at your job. You're maybe not the best prosecutor that the federal government can put forward to get the job done, which is to put these weirdos and whack jobs behind bars. And so she was released, I guess, now. But again, because of her link to Epstein and because of her link to, well, James Comey, it does keep the story alive for just a few more days, doesn't it? And then finally, one other thing that I did want to mention quickly is this immigration bill that, calling it bipartisan support, I feel like that's a stretch because the Republicans that support it are all in deep blue districts. They're all either blue state Republicans or red state moderates. Bipartisan bill would grant legal status to certain illegal immigrant workers. They call it a light amnesty. Republican-led legislation would allow certain illegal immigrants to stay and work while enhancing border security. Reps Maria Elvira Salazar from Florida and Veronica Escobar from Texas introduced legislation on Tuesday to reform the U.S. immigration system, including offering legal status for certain illegal immigrants to continue working in the country amid President Donald Trump's mass deportation policies. The Dignity Act, they call it, of 2025 would allow illegal immigrants who have been in the U.S. since before 2021 the opportunity to apply for up to 7 years of legal status with work authorization. The immigrants would pay restitution and check in regularly with the Department of Homeland Security, and their legal status could be renewed based on good conduct and restitution. The bill would offer a path to permanent residency, but the legal status afforded to the immigrants would not allow for any federal benefits or a path to U.S. citizenship. The Dignity Act of 2025 is a revolutionary bill that offers the solution to our immigration crisis: secure the border, stop illegal immigration, and provide an earned opportunity for long-term immigrants to stay here and work. No amnesty, no handouts, no citizenship. Just accountability and a path to stability for our economy and our future. The problem isn't necessarily that this bill has come up, because that's not all surprising. It's the amount of bipartisan support that it received early on. And like I said, a lot of that bipartisan support is from, let's just say, squishy conservatives, to say the least. People who vote, who put an R beside their name because they want the support of the Republican Party, but don't have the conservative constitutional values that many red state Republicans do. And that is why this bill is such an issue. Speaking of conservative values and red state Republicans who believe in the Constitution, oh, by the way, did I mention that I am running for Congress? If not, allow me to reaffirm that I am running for Congress. Mark Kaye for Congress for Florida's 5th Congressional District. I am running against a Republican in the primary because the Republican we have in the primary is more like a Democrat. The Republican that's been serving and representing, quote unquote, the people of Florida's 5th District for the last 10 years votes with the Democrats more often than he does the Republicans. He's more liberal than Liz Cheney, and he has gone to Congress with one goal in mind, and that is to pad his own pockets and benefit himself and his family in the long run, not the people that he represents back home. So it's time for a change, and I'm the one that's going to change it. I need your help, though. We need all kinds of support. Monetary support. We need financial support. We need your support, door knocking and on the grassroots level, but primarily to get this thing going, to get it off the ground, to buy the palm cards and the signs and to rent the halls and to host the rallies and everything else that we need to do. We really need your financial support. So if you're interested in constitutional conservatives getting back to Congress and rooting out all of the corruption in Washington, D.C., go to markkforcongress.com. The link is in the description of this video. Any money that you can donate to our campaign would greatly help the effort. Any money that you can put forward in an effort to oust not just Democrats from Congress, but Republicans who act like Democrats. Some people call them rhinos. They've got to go too. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do here in Florida's 5th District next August. But the battle begins now. $25, $50, $100, as much as you can give. We would really appreciate it, and it would really help our campaign so that we can continue to root out the corruption in Washington, D.C., drain the swamp, and save the United States of America. Listen, I appreciate you being with me for this longer version of Mark Kaye Saves the Republic with the extended press conference from Caroline Leavitt, but I think we got a lot of good information. We got a lot of good stuff. We realize that Donald Trump is working diligently to make America great again. He's working on all the things he promised. And we also know that the Epstein story is not going away. And there's a lot of questions remaining. And we'll see if Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice does exactly what Donald Trump suggested she do. And that is release any and all credible documents that she has in her possession. In the meantime, please subscribe, because by subscribing, you continue to get this information every single day delivered to you in video format, live streaming on any of our live streaming platforms or on our podcast platform. Wherever you like it, we're going to give it to you, but only if you subscribe and tell whatever tech company you're listening to, deliver me more Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, because I need this information. I crave this entertainment. I love getting together with Patriots. I love hearing Mark Kaye broadcast every single day from Mar-a-Lago at Patriot HQ in illustrious Jacksonville, Florida, and I want to get it every single day, so please deliver it to me. In the meantime, we'll be back tomorrow with more information, with more entertainment, with more enlightenment, with more of the stuff you need to know so you can arm yourself and be ready and prepared at any and all times to fight so we can save the Republic. Incidentally, due to the extended broadcast, I apologize. We will not be having a Patriot Club meeting today because we have a 3 o'clock coaching call that I have to prepare for. I do apologize, but you got an extended show here on the regular stream. So